Analysis, where we analyze whatever the hell I feel like analyzing. Today we're going to be looking at Ed Sheeran's Shape of You because I said so.
Ed Sheeran.
Ed Sheeran is a singer-songwriter from the UK, most recently known for his songs.
I'm thinking out loud, maybe.
As well as
Background.
Shape of You was released on January 6, 2017 off of Ed Sheeran's upcoming album Obelisk, which is what that thing is called. You know, the thing with the lines and the dots. It's called Divide. The album is set to be released in early March and will also contain the single Shape of You originally charted at the end of January at number 1, but it dropped to number 2 shortly thereafter thanks to a certain somebody's.
Bad and bullshit, bad. Cooking up dope with a Uzi.
Regardless, it did make its way back to number 1 come mid-February. Ed Sheeran is listed as both a writer and producer of his own music, as it would make sense to do so. However, Ed Sheeran has helped write a couple of other songs that you might be familiar with, such as
Right over into cold, cold water for you.
in addition to
Oh baby, you should go and love yourself.
apparently him and Justin Bieber have a very good working relationship. In terms of writing, Ed Sheeran is joined by Johnny McDade, who has worked with Ed Sheeran previously on his song,
Keep this love in its photograph.
as well as the entirety of his previous album, Multiply. Honestly, I'm looking forward to his next album, Differentiate. The last contributor credited on the song is Steve McCutcheon, aka Steve Mac. Steve Mac has been listed as the producer for various songs, with the two most popular being and Shape of You is released by both Asylum and Atlantic Records, because apparently everything is released by Atlantic Records.
Basic information.
The song is listed as pop, is just under 4 minutes long, is in C-sharp minor, 4/4 time, 96 beats per minute, and its form goes verse, pre-chorus, chorus, verse, pre-chorus, chorus, bridge, chorus.
Form.
The song starts with a short 2-bar introduction, which introduces both the marimba and the guitar drum thing.
First verse.
After the short introduction, we get the first verse, which opens with Ed Sheeran's vocals.
Club isn't the best place to find a lover, so the bar is where I go.
Shortly thereafter, we get our first taste of the backup vocals going,
Me and
Those backup vocals come and repeat themselves in between each line. This texture repeats until we finally get to
First pre-chorus.
the first thing evident here is that he has a chorus effect added to his vocals, which is really just him singing over himself.
girl, you know I want your love.
And as the pre-chorus goes on, they add more layers to it.
Boy, let's not talk too much.
The pre-chorus ultimately ends with a drop near the end,
Come on now, follow my lead.
as well as some more
First chorus.
The first chorus continues the trend of the layered vocals, but also adds some more drums into the mix.
I'm in love with the shape of you. We push and pull like a magnet do.
If you listen very carefully, you can hear that there's a white noise effect added in the background. It's pretty hard to hear, but it becomes more apparent later in the song. In addition, we continue the theme of constantly adding more layers to Sheeran's vocals.
Last night you were in my room, and now my bedsheets smell like you.
Once we get to the halfway point of the chorus, a lot of things change. For starters, the backup vocals are now layered, and they have new noises that they make from their mouths. Instrumentally speaking, the drums are made a lot louder, and we have a new instrument added in the form of an orchestral hit sample.
I'm in love with your body.
This continues until we finally get to the
Second verse.
When we let the story begin. We're going out on our first date.
You can hear we're back to just Ed Sheeran, the guitar drums, the marimbas, and of course,
You and me,
unlike the first verse though, this one has a drop in it.
and I fill up the plate.
The white noise is back and is slightly easier to hear, but it is still pretty buried.
Hours and hours about the sweet and the sour and how your family's doing okay.
Besides that, the second verse is pretty similar to the first one.
Second pre-chorus.
For the most part, it's pretty similar to the first pre-chorus, except there are claps as well as a loud bass synth added.
Girl, you know I want your love.
Second chorus.
The only thing that makes the second chorus different than the first chorus is that there's a new instrument added, a high plucking electric guitar.
I'm in love with the shape of you.
The new guitar part continues well into the second half of the chorus. We now have the
Bridge.
The first half of the bridge is pretty simplistic. It has Ed Sheeran's layered vocals as well as some hand claps and the same repeated line.
Come on, be my baby, come on.
Halfway through, an acoustic guitar is added.
Come on, be my baby, come on.
The bridge ends with a drop.
Come on, be my baby, come on.
Third chorus.
So in the final chorus of the song, we have all of the instruments in there that were added in previous sections.
I'm in love with the shape of you. We push and pull like a magnet do.
As the final chorus goes on, they later add the lyrics that were first heard in the bridge.
Come on, be my baby, come on.
It is also here that Ed Sheeran starts improvising over himself.
Baby, come on.
The track ends abruptly, leaving only Ed Sheeran singing by himself.
I'm in love with the shape of you.
Accompaniments.
The very first thing we hear in the track is the
Marimba.
The high part keeps going C sharp E C sharp, and at the end of either phrase goes E D sharp B or D sharp C sharp B. The low part, on the other hand, goes C sharp and then drops to F sharp, rising to A and then B every time.
Hits.
These are orchestral hits that are then sampled and then used in a sequencer to make a new patch. The low part is repeating the notes that the low end of the marimba was playing before, that C sharp dropping to an F sharp, then A, then B. The higher part, however, is played on the off beats and goes E, F sharp, C sharp, and then either D sharp or B depending on the phrase.
Bass.
The bass part really only happens this one time, and it's pretty simplistic. It's a C sharp, F sharp, A, B figure that we heard before. Only this time, instead of the C sharp being a higher one, it's a lower one.
Electric guitar.
The electric guitar part is straight 16ths. It gives 2 beats of G sharp, 4 of F sharp, and then 1 of E and C sharp.
Acoustic guitar.
The acoustic guitar has 2 versions once it's first introduced in the bridge. The first time it plays a bunch of 5th chords being C sharp, F sharp, A, and B, but being cut off halfway through the second phrase. The second part happens in the following chorus and is the same part, given it's repeated much higher on the guitar itself. Personally, I actually like a lot of what he does with the instruments, and if I was going to make a remix of this, I would just use all the stuff he already has in it. It'd just be like this.
Bass. Regardless, it's probably best to move on to the I mean, I could call them the backup vocals, but this is a lot funnier. So the first version we get of this is in the first verse.
Me and my
It's just a quick G sharp E F sharp C sharp figure. The next one we get is even simpler, and it's just a rising G sharp B C sharp figure. The last one isn't technically just because it actually is saying things, but I don't want to change it because I already made the graphic for it, so deal with it. Regardless, it's an entirely 8th note figure, doing 2 C sharps, 2 E's, 2 F sharps, and 2 G sharps.
Melodies.
In terms of melodies, the only ones that are ever repeated are the ones in the pre-chorus and the choruses. He's very diverse with his verses.
You're not clever or funny. Get over it. Pre-chorus.
So the first line of the pre-chorus starts out with a C sharp, drops to B before jumping all the way up to G sharp through C, and then a little E F sharp figure at the end of the first phrase. The second phrase revolves all around E, going as high as G sharp and going as low as C sharp. Ultimately, though, it does end back at C sharp.
girl, you know I want your love. Your love was handmade for somebody like me.
The second line starts all the way at a high B, going G sharp, F sharp, G sharp, F sharp, E, and then C sharp. This second phrase opens similarly to the second phrase of the first line, but deviates halfway through, choosing to do F sharp, E, and then 2 C sharps.
Come on now, follow my lead. I may be crazy, don't mind me, say
Chorus.
So the first melody we have in the chorus always starts on an E going up to a G sharp. However, at the end of the first phrase it ends with an F sharp, whereas at the end of the second it ends with a C sharp.
I'm in love with the shape of you. We push and pull like a magnet do.
So in the second melody in the chorus, the first phrase starts at a C sharp and rises up twice, the first time hitting a G sharp, the second time hitting an F sharp. The second phrase is similar to the phrases in the first melody, whereas it starts at an E, goes up to a G sharp, and ultimately ends at a C sharp.
But my heart is falling too. I'm in love with your body.
The last
last part of the chorus can actually be seen as a combination of the two previous melodic lines. It does embellish and change a few things, but ultimately it is pretty much the same form.
Last night you were in my room, and now my bedsheets smell like you. Every day discovering something brand new. Well, I'm in love with your body.
Bridge. The melody in the bridge is pretty simplistic, starting off at a G sharp, dropping to E, and then going back to G sharp for 2 C sharps. The second phrase repeats that, although as opposed to a G sharp before the last 2 notes, it is an E.
Come on, be my baby, come on. Come on, be my baby, come on.
I'll have to give credit to Ed Sheeran. After doing a number of these pop analyses, this one actually stands out in the fact that it does have repeated sections, but every time it is repeated, there is something added. I'd hate to think I've become jaded after looking at all these pop songs over the past couple of months. Of course, the rest of you are more than welcome to analyze this stuff on your own. Hell, I'll even help you, just
Come on now, follow my lead. I'm in love with the shape of you. We push and pull like a magnet do. Although my heart is falling too. I'm in love with your body.
Bass.
Last